by the Genius Jones Company. That's Heather Jones and Jeff Jones, our curator and our exhibition designer preparator. Can we hear me?
Yes.
What are we thinking? All right. And Gretel, the masterful videographer. Thank you. Sydney, our curatorial assistant. And all of you are a member of the team. I think Brent helped with chairs as well. It goes the way it goes. And here come some artist friends that are also coming in. So, my name's Eve. I'm the director of the Contemporary Dayton. I am so happy to see all these familiar faces, including the ladies that just walked in, some more of our artists. Hi, Marjorie! Oh, look at that. We've got some Dennis Grant, too. So, you know, we change it up the way we do these gallery talks every once in a while. The sound is a little bouncy in here, so we're going to do the best we can. It feels like it's okay for now. Beautiful gallery walls, amazing exhibitions, temporary restrooms, and bouncy sound. You can't get everything. But I was saying to someone, I do have power because I got the humongous dumpster dumped. Well, I didn't personally. I asked for the dumpster that was overflowing and had been in front of our gallery for 2 weeks to be dumped before tonight. And that happened. So I have power over that. We are honored that you're here tonight. Thank you. We are honored and thankful for everyone in this room, the graciousness of support. Some of you are here as with your interest in Laura's work, your support for the Co, and then also because I asked for your support and you came through. So thank you very much. You know who you are. I'm going to be talking about you a little bit more later. But tonight is the night that we celebrate this glorious exhibition by the artist Laura Sanders. And Laura is going to be having a conversation with curator Heather Jones. And we want to thank our donors, particularly some people that are in the room, Rebecca Ivel with Contemporary Art Matters, the Contemporary Art Matters team, Barbara Swank, one of our longtime donors, the Weavers, some of our board members. I'm supposed to keep it short. And CultureWorks, Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Ohio Arts Council, the Virginia W. Kettering Foundation, and the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Arts. Presenting sponsor for this exhibition, in addition to Contemporary Art Matters, the Pizzuti Collection, Dr. Robert L. Grant Jr., and the She Society, which is our revived society that supports exhibitions by women artists. Our hospitality partner has changed the past couple of weeks, and we've been working with the Hilton Garden Inn, which is the new hotel that is part of the arcade development. So with that, I'd like to invite Heather and Laura to the table. Heather Jones is our curator since just January. I keep on saying new, but she and I have known each other for 10 plus years. And she comes to us with a breadth and a depth of contemporary art knowledge and practice as a practicing artist, and has hit the ground, I keep on saying hit the ground running, but steaming ahead like a locomotive. Put together this exhibition, which was an empty slot for a couple of months, frustratingly so, and filled it beautifully, and is working on exhibitions that are going to be incredible for the community for the next 2 years and beyond. So we're so glad to have her. We are glad to have the other exhibiting artists whose gallery talks are in the next couple of months. Christine Gaffney is here, and Eric Ulster Amazon is here as well. So thank you, everyone.
probably stood in different parts, but that's all right.
Oh, welcome everybody.
Hi. So I'm going to do just a quick bio of Laura, and it's so fun because I've known you for 5-6 years now. So it's been fun to work with you. I mean, we've been friends and colleagues as artists, and it's been really fun to work with you in a different role. So yeah, good. Thank you. Okay, so Laura was born in Detroit, Michigan, and she creates paintings of women and girls immersed in natural environments that merge the genres of landscape and figurative work. Her subject matter considers the complex reality of women venturing beyond perceived safe places. For a woman, experiencing solitude and a connection with nature is fraught with considerations and hesitations. Sanders articulates these fears and longings with an expressive painting style that puts forefront the tactile and luscious material qualities of oil paint. Sanders' robust use of paint creates an almost photorealistic image that, when viewed in person, reveals its construction, inviting the viewer to slow down and experience the physical evidence of the hand and the haptic marks of the paint. Sanders has presented her paintings in solo and group exhibitions at galleries and museums across the U.S. In 2024, her work was the subject of a solo exhibition, Her Habitat, at Contemporary Art Matters, Columbus, Ohio. Her work has been included in numerous group exhibitions, including Here's Looking at You, Plato Gallery, New York, Rewilding, Nino Meyer Gallery, Los Angeles, The Scenic Route, 1969 Gallery, New York, Shape of an Image, curated by Sasha Bogajev in Hong Kong, and Xenia, Crossroads and Portrait Painting at Marianne Boesky Gallery, New York. Her work has been featured in New American Paintings. In 2022, she curated the group exhibition To Die For at Contemporary Art Matters in Columbus. She has received a number of grants from arts organizations, including the Greater Columbus Art Council's Individual Artist Award in 2011, and the Ohio Art Council's Individual Excellence Award in 2009, 2013, and 2019. She has been awarded artist residencies at the Headland Center for the Arts in Sausalito, California, and the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Her work is held in many public and private collections, including the Pizzuti Collection, Columbus, Ohio, the Scantlin Family Collection, Columbus, Ohio, the Beth Rudin DeWoody Collection, West Palm Beach, Florida, and the Columbus Museum of Art. In 1988, she received her BFA from Columbus College of Art and Design, and she lives and works in Columbus and maintains a studio in Long Island City, New York. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. To the Code Dayton and Contemporary Dayton and for this exhibition and opportunity. It's really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, you're very welcome. We are honored. And before we get further, I also want to thank Rebecca Ebel and Kathy Willard from Contemporary Art Matters, our collective gallery in Columbus. But without Kathy and Rebecca's, they were really instrumental in this exhibition and also in the production of our first catalog. So we do have a catalog of the exhibition that is available for sale if anyone is interested. Okay, so let's get started, right? Okay, so Force of Nature is a mid-career survey and includes paintings from 2008 to 2024. What inspired these particular bodies of work? And can you also tell us a little bit about the title of the exhibition?
Sure. So this exhibition actually has several bodies of work. It really spans 20 years. And the title of the show really comes from something that I was working with early on when I did the water paintings. And it's kind of the starting point for all my paintings, really. And just when my daughter was young, and I was thinking about things that were happening in the environment and the climate, and I've taken her to all these natural places. And I've always been very environmental and worry about these things a lot. And I was just thinking about, it's always talked about how man is changing nature and our degradation, but then we receive so much and we really are subject to the force of nature, that we kind of have it, we think that we have so much influence, but really it has the influence on us. And so I was trying to think of a way to like have the figure kind of just show this without telling this. And the first very obvious thing was for me to just immerse them in water. And since I was raising my daughter and she was young, those just were my models. And her friends. And so while they were playing, I was scheming my paintings and thinking of ideas for. So that's kind of how basically just my view that we, the force of nature is something that we operate within.
Yeah. One thing that I always say when we have visitors, I mentioned that these happen to all be paintings of your daughters, but that you don't only paint your daughter. I think that's an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
And I want to, let people know that you don't focus solely on her, but I kind of thought that, as a parent, you have a built-in model.
Oh, yeah.
So it's easy. You can just say, oh, let me take your photo.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were happy to do it. I mean, I bought them ice cream afterwards.
Yeah.
And they seemed to have fun.
Yeah.
No one complained too much. And yeah, it just seemed like a good thread. I have a lot of work and like to kind of bring all these different groups of bodies of work and subject matter together to have her as sort of the thread and through it all.
It was a great thread. And I do have to say this little aside as well. At the opening, Elena, your daughter, came, and I was so glad she was able to see the show too.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about some themes and ideas that you've returned to. How have those shifted over time, or have they shifted over time?
Oh, yeah, as my daughter grew, I mean, there's sort of a shift between the focus on the environment and its effect on us to basically like seeing my daughter grow and think about experiences that I've had and sort of restrictions and how that changes becoming a woman. And I feel that those issues are also very parallel to kind of the environmental issues and both resonate with each other.
One thing that I thought too while I was writing the essay for the catalog, and really spending time with the work, one thing that I picked up on is, especially the paintings on the wall behind us where she's younger, she is sort of oblivious to the world. She's playing, she's lost in her own world, she's playing with friends, she's floating on her own, she's on that awesome pink inner tube in the painting at the end. And so she is just, not oblivious, but also she's not, worried about her surroundings. But then as she gets older, she starts to match the gaze. She's looking at the viewer. She realizes that she's not carefree anymore. And I thought that was a really interesting distinction that happened as the paintings progressed over time, as Elena grew up.
Yeah.
It was really, it was like, and interesting.
It's gradual.
It is gradual, because we have these paintings from your Fire series, the Firelight series. We have one painting on this wall, we have another painting on the short wall around the corner where she's like a adolescent, maybe 13, 14-ish.
Yeah, it starts to creep in then. I think in the very beginning too, when, most of these were conceived in Provincetown when I did the residency with the Ohio Arts Council, and luckily I was able to take her with me, which was pretty awesome.
That's great, yeah.
And I was thinking a lot of motion as well, and I really didn't want things to look posed. I had, in school, everything was, I loved I knew I wanted to be a figure painter, but things were very posed, and it wasn't until I started having the figure outdoors and just that motion, and then also, as well as being vulnerable to the environment, you can see the figure actively changing the environment, in the reflections of the water, and so, but yes, and then as time went on, I think it became a little more personal, like in that so I'm like rushing through like 15 years here, but yeah, as she got older, I at first the figures were not aware of the viewer, but at some point I felt like, no, she has to confront this, and she's taking charge a little bit. And some of the paintings from those series, I also have them holding rocks, or, you know, just being aware that they needed to defend themselves or be cautious.
So holding a rock as a potential weapon,
Yeah,
some sort
like,
of.
I mean, there's been times where I'm walking,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm nervous, and you know, you pick up a stick or something, like, so
Yeah.
it's kind of that idea.
Yeah. Can you walk us through sort of your creative practice from idea to execution? And I imagine it's changed over the last 20 years, but you know, in your work today, how does a typical day look like? What does a typical day look like for you in the studio?
Well, in the studio, I do things in phases. So I kind of have the initial phase where I just have an idea or a gesture. I tend to repeat gestures too, like I like. And but by the time I get to the studio, I've already done the photo session, you know, had the idea, done the photo session, then I'm pretty much just like full on painting when I'm in the studio.
Yeah, so let's back up and talk about your use of photography. So, and I know a little bit about your practice, but not everybody does. So can you share sort of those preliminary sessions, which are still studio sessions, but different than what people might expect?
They're outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really creative times. I sort of have this intuitive idea, but then I really want to take the figure out into the environment, whatever it is, you know, water or wooded area. And light is so important in my work, and that's what I really love, like portraying. Like, I don't want to just like illustrate. I want to have that, to capture that moment of the light that you can do with photography. So,
Because the light changes so fast.
it changes, and it can make one scene, you know, one set model look interesting one moment and not interesting the next moment.
Right.
And so I'm kind of chasing that around. And then I also like kind of figure a lot of stuff out too. Like, okay, I was thinking I wanted to do this, but it's not looking the way I wanted it to. And so I'll change ideas, or something will happen in the environment that will spark an idea. So I really enjoy those. And then, so there's that phase.
So you're setting up photo shoots, you're bringing props like plastic baskets or plastic water bottles, or that awesome Mylar balloon that's in cloud formation over there.
Yeah.
So you're bringing all these things with you, and you're setting up photo shoots basically.
Yeah.
And when you're in the field, are you looking at the images to see, you know, like on your phone or whatever camera that you're
A little
using?
bit, but not too much, because honestly, I just can't really see on my camera very well. It's usually like really bright.
Yeah.
And so I'm just taking loads and loads of pictures, and then just kind of coming home, going through them on the computer, and then I end up like photoshopping a lot of images together. Like the painting of cloud formation, you know, is probably like 6 different, you know, things that I've photoshopped together.
So you're merging elements of different photos into one final composition.
Yes.
Yeah. A question that me and other people have looked at the painting. It's like, where is the string to the balloon? How is that balloon floating? I don't know. You don't need to answer that if you don't want to. But I have been looking at it very closely.
Well, actually, when I set it up, I just had these like garden stakes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I just like kind of stuck them in the ground, and I did a lot of photography of that balloon just kind of separately. Well, you can see the reflection of her in there, so I kind of took like the reflection from that photo shoot and then put it, I don't know, I just combined stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Move it around.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So talk to us maybe a little bit more about light. I mean, I think especially in the newer works, I think the oval paintings in the space, the small rectangular painting over there, where the shadows and light are so strong and pronounced on her face.
Yeah.
How did that sort of come to be?
That was sort of an accident in my backyard, actually. There was this certain time of the day and a certain season where the light would just come through this cherry tree that I planted, and it just made this amazing dappled light. I mean, I'd already been kind of working with that, but it was so intense. And I became really interested in doing something that looked sort of like a formal portrait, which is why I did the oval, something that looked kind of very traditional. And then I loved how the shadows would kind of distort the face and kind of almost make it look grotesque. And just kind of a transformation. But also behind that idea is that the environment is changing the person. It's at least visually, you know, and it's sort of a visual representation of this impact that we don't always feel, you know, but is there, but then really brought out in that extreme light.
Yeah, it is. It really, they create such an interesting texture, I think, visually, but also your paint handling, you know, there's an actual texture too. And that's been the fun thing too in the gallery. Visitors, I mean, Eva, Cindy, we hear it every day. People see it from the street. If they're not familiar with Laura's work, they're like, oh, those are photographs. And then they come close and they're like, no, they're not photographs, they're paintings. So, I mean, that is literally something that happens almost every day that we're open. So it's been really fun to receive people's reactions to your work. Have you always worked in oil paint?
Honestly, pretty much.
Yeah. Are there reasons why that is?
I just fell in love with it once I started. I remember early on, even when I tried to work in acrylic, it was almost like I knew it was supposed to do something different, that it wasn't supposed to dry like that. And then once I found oil painting, I really, yeah, like I said, fell in love with it. But I did do ceramics. I thought I was going to be a ceramicist for a while and had kiln, but always kind of just kept coming back to it. And then I decided I need to focus.
And that sort of happened after you had your daughter?
No, that was before. Right after college, I worked for the theater as a set painter, and those 5 years, I was still kind of figuring out, am I gonna, do ceramics, or am I gonna do painting, And so I was kind of in flux.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I find fascinating about your work, and this sort of goes hand in hand with, how you are speaking about environmental concerns of, plastics and the environment, you have sought out materials that are less toxic, that are more environmentally friendly. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have started working, one of the solvents that I'm working with is lavender spike oil, but I'm not quite sure, honestly. At first I thought, because the hype, they put all the natural, and it's it definitely cleans my brushes better than anything I've ever used before, but yeah, but you can just clean your brushes with just regular linseed oil too. So I try to do that a lot, and
rather than things like turpentine.
Yes, I finally got away from turpentine, and so I always use wood stretchers. I try not to use plastic and anything, and linen, and just.
And I will say, when we at the gallery unwrapped Cloud Formation again, which is the newest of your paintings in the exhibition, there was the slightest scent of lavender. And I was wondering if it was from this oil that you use. It was lovely when we opened it up. It's a nice little surprise. I had one other thing, and now it went away. It'll come back. I'll think of it. So, do you ever embrace improvisation? I mean, I guess improvisation sort of happens a little bit in your photo shoots. But is it, would you say it's more, your practice is more structured?
I would say it's a little of both, really, because in each step there is an opportunity for improvising, and also just the fact that it's in steps, I think, makes it kind of planned out. Because I'm playing around a lot on the computer in Photoshop, changing the colors. I mean, you can do so much to just make it however you want. And then when I'm actually painting, I pretty much draw, like once I get my composition on the computer, I do kind of lock it in and draw it out as I've decided. And then, but as I'm painting, I feel like the the improvising kind of comes around as I'm like doing the brush strokes and thinking about how I want to apply the paint. And that to me is just endlessly fascinating. Like there's just so many ways you can like lay the paint down to like create whatever feeling or effect that you want. And it's not at all cerebral, it's very just intuitive and very just experiencing looking at the image and then just letting it take over.
Yeah, and I think that's another one of my personal favorite things about your work is the paint handling. I mean, you have areas that are, super thin, almost washy areas of paint to this beautiful, thick, almost impasto areas there. And I think there's this confidence in mark making, which I think is really fascinating too. And I think that sort of lends to the title of the exhibition, The Force of Nature, because I mean, I think you are the force of nature as well in these works, because I keep going back to the little rectangular painting. And she has this beautiful, I should pull up the name of that painting just so we know which one we're talking about.
Supernatural.
Thank you, it is Supernatural. There's this lovely, like, creamy white dollop of paint above her eyebrow. And it's just, I feel like so many people would have smoothed that out and blended it. But I love that it's this tactile quality. Another thing I always say to you about your work, and I will never ever do this, but I just want to touch it. Like they're so like, well, I never ever would do that. That would not be a good thing to do. But they're very tactile. I mean, even your earlier work. I mean, I love what's happening in the painting behind us and how it, especially where her arm is moving and her legs are moving under the water and how it just breaks up that, but captures that idea of motion and light that you've been talking about.
Well, thank you, because I'm going for that. I want it to be tactile.
Yes. What's the biggest challenge you face in your practice?
That I don't paint very fast. I spend I can be there all and then 8 hours have gone by, and it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I would say that was.
How long does it typically take? I mean, let's not count the photo shoot, but from time you start laying out lines to painting on I know it depends on the size of the work, but let's just say the big one over there. How long did that take you to paint?
That took me, I started on it and worked on it for about a month, and then I don't normally do this, but then I moved on to something else. I usually do finish one and go on to the next. But then actually Rebecca saw it and she was like, you have to do this. And that was good, that was a good push. And so then after that, I think it took me 3 months of painting every single day on it. Once I start painting on something, I like to paint wet, so I like to keep on it every single day, at least do something, because I don't like to come back and just have this crusty thing that I can't move around. Since I paint so directly like that, I pretty much stay on it every day until it's done.
How do you know when a painting is finished?
That is easy for me.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, yeah. I know a lot of people. Well, I learned early on that if I just kept fussing with something, I just drove it into the ground. It just would be so. It took me a while to realize that if I just, I just do because I paint so directly. So pretty much once I've covered the whole thing in paint, it's done. And if I try to go back into, I do a little bit of glazing, but not very much. It's more productive for me to just go to the next painting. And usually I'm pretty excited about the next one that I'm going to start by that point anyways. So I tend to learn more that way too. I think my work gets better that way, than sort of obsessing. I would just never finish.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think I would imagine that helps. I don't know. I'm just thinking about oil paint. It can have a tendency to get muddy too if it's worked too much, and I think you clearly don't have that issue.
Well, and glazing isn't really my forte. I've never. I mean, I do it a little bit, but I really like the freshness of just the direct applied paint.
And does everyone know what glazing is? What Laura is referencing? Do you want to maybe?
It's like a lot of painters will one painting technique is to do a grise, which is like just a value-based painting where it's just the lights and the darks. And then come back with a thin, more oily paint that is transparent, and they call that glazing. You put it over and it can make a really beautiful glow. I mean, there are masters at that, just where, and I think I kind of do a little bit of that with the fact that I do a thin wash of a color over the whole canvas or in certain patches. And then when I'm doing my sort of more direct impasto painting, some of it is thinned so that it's transparent and the under painting shows through a little bit. So I guess you could technically say that the big thick stuff is, I don't know, maybe not. I sort of do the glaze first actually, and then
build up layers. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Victorine by herself. That's another one of your newer ones. That's the painting behind you all with Elena, your model, sitting there in the woods with a pink plastic basket near her foot.
Yeah, that came about. So I had by this point done quite a few paintings of girls in the woods, and I have been thinking, well, of course, many painters think about Manet's Luncheon in the Grass. It's a very famous painting that is very beloved. And I had been thinking for a long time, what would it be if I had put Victorine by herself? Because in the painting, it is a woman model. She's completely nude, and then she's surrounded by 2 or 3 male figures, and they're fully clothed.
And Victorine is the actual name of the woman who was the model in that painting.
Yeah. And Manet used her a lot. It was one of his favorite models. And so everyone decided who she was based on the men that were in the painting. And I wanted to just have the same Victorine, but she's not being defined by the men around her. So then I had my little token basket, plastic basket. Because they have there's this gorgeous still life of a basket with fruit being spilled out. So.
Like a wicker basket with, not the plastic that we tend to have these days. And is that the same basket that's in the painting called Ground Cover?
Yeah.
That's what we thought, yeah. So you are repeating motifs in your work. And can you talk to us a little bit about, speaking of repeating motifs, other things that we see in these paintings? I mean, we see plastic floaties in the environment. We see inner tubes. We see water bottles, plastic water bottles. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision to include those objects in the works as well?
Yeah. So part of it is just sort of my obsession with like how bad it sounds. But also I felt like, it's so ubiquitous and it should be an art. We're of our time. If it's so important that we're willing to cause all this destruction with it.
As I take a sip of water
I
from a
know,
plastic
out of a
cup. I was
plastic
just
cup,
thinking
I
about
know.
that. Yeah.
But then maybe it is really important. But also to the water bottle, I find a fascinating object. It's just unique in its design. I mean, when it came out, there was that shape, all the bubbles and all the, and so it's actually really, I love hate it. It's like this really interesting object to paint.
And the way it refracts light.
Yes.
And creates,
Yeah.
areas of like reflection in the object as well. I imagine as a painter, you're really interested in those
Yeah.
little bits that happen as well. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And again, I know you personally, so it's a little bit different. But I mean, your whole life, these ideas that you have don't just center on your paintings. You also have this other practice of planting trees.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a fascinating connection. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess I just felt like I needed to do something, and it's sort of become my hobby too. I like to start trees from acorns and seeds that I find, like from really beautiful trees in our neighborhood. And so I've just been doing that and walking up to people's houses with a little tree in my hand. Do you want to plant a tree in your front yard? I'll take care of it.
And you've done
And it
it with
works.
schools? You've done it with schools in your area
Yeah,
as
I have a
well?
friend who's a teacher at a nearby school. I've started to kind of really rein it into like nearby, because when I first was really excited about planting it, I was like, the next spring, I was driving all over town to these trees to water them or protect them when the frost came. And so now I'm pretty close to home with that. But
I just think it's fascinating because, your work, your paintings deal with environmental issues, but you also, are warning people about that in your work, or reminding people, or, telling people about that in your work, but you're also, I think, taking it a step further and having that other practice. And I have benefited from your trees, which I love. They're doing well. So thank you. How does your personal history or identity inform your work? I mean, we talked a little bit about the environmental, but are there other aspects? Like, I mean, your role as a mother, as I said, you don't only paint your daughter, but it's an interesting theme that we sort of focused on with this exhibition.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to really single out one particular, there's so much. I mean, like, it's hard to separate my life from my heart.
Of
a lot
course,
times.
yeah.
But I do think that there's sort of an origin story to like my environmental sort of streak. I grew up near here, Vandalia, Ohio, and when I was in the second grade, we moved to a new housing development. And so it was just like row after row of new house, 70s homes that they were building. And so when we first moved there, we were the, we were the new street in the division. And so I remember looking out of my bedroom window, and it was just a field of daisies. It was beautiful. And then there was a tree line behind. And then I remembered this, and I don't even know how true it is. My sister's here. But there was like this little farmhouse off in the distance. And so like my plans were, I am gonna go like investigate this farmhouse. And then before I ever got a chance to do that, it was just pulled up, it was just gone. And so for probably 3 or 4 years, we just watched them build the houses, and it started out as our playground with tadpole ponds and fields, and and we had to keep like venturing further and further and further to like find the trees, and because everything just got built. And I think that had a big effect too, just seeing just houses planted on top of this wildness that I found so amazing. My grandparents also too had an amazing cabin the cabin was just a tiny little thing, but it was amazing to me because of its location. It was on the river, Manistee River in Michigan. And so I spent summers up there, and that was pretty amazing.
Were you painting then?
No, I was just a little kid,
Yeah.
and just actually the river kind of went in a loop, and the street went down the middle of the loop, and so we could get on inner tubes and float around for an hour, and then run across the gravel road and get, I don't know.
And get back in?
Yeah.
It's like your own lazy river.
It was.
Sounds
It was amazing. Yeah.
How do you hope viewers will engage with your work? Do you ever think about things like that?
I do and I don't. You know, I feel so strongly about the things that I paint that I think I would paint them regardless of how anybody would feel.
Yeah.
But I do want people to think, you know, like, they're not narrative paintings. They don't have like a very specific story. I think of them more like how when you're reading poetry, you know, that you're kind of thinking about more just how something feels, or, you know, the texture. And so if someone can get like just that kind of feeling of the light and sort of an emotional takeaway, and maybe some ideas of their own from the imagery, that would make me happy.
Yeah, and that leads me to this other thought. A lot of your titles are not, there's not a lot of information. And so that word you said, these aren't narrative paintings. I mean, even these locations, people are often ask us, like, well, where are these locations? And I say, I don't know. She doesn't really reference. There's only one painting where you reference a space, the Olentangy River, or Olentangy.
Yeah.
I don't Tangy. However that river is pronounced. That's the only place that you are referencing, at least in this body, you know, these paintings that we have in the exhibition, that's the only location that you are referencing. They're very sort of nondescript: seawater, slack tide, undercurrent, juvenile. So that sort of is an interesting thought based on what you said as well.
Yeah, the title is definitely, I want it, even, you know, when there's a figure in a painting, everyone's focused on the figure. And I wanted to, so like with Slack Tide, I wanted the thoughts to go, you know, I wanted to broaden broaden the thoughts of like, to think about this force, you know, the slack tide is when it's, you know, calm, but, you know, think more about the environment that they're in. So, and I didn't really start doing, like, Olentangy River is part of a series where I was kind of referencing specific locations a little bit more, but it was still all about like this type of environment, you know, that they're in.
So more generalized rather than specific.
Yeah.
What has been the most influential in your development as an artist? What event, person, experience?
You know, I think just sticking with it and just continuing to paint, but also I've had so many people help me along the way and so much support, and getting involved in organizations like the Ohio Arts Council, and that's how I met Rebecca, and it's like volunteering there, and it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah. I think I might end with this and then maybe open it up with questions.
Okay.
Yeah? Does that sound like a plan? You okay with
Yeah,
questions?
no,
Okay,
sounds
good.
great.
What advice would you give to emerging artists?
Oh, to get involved.
To get involved.
And, yeah.
And stick with it. Keep painting. We have a few students in the audience, so it's good to share that with them.
Yeah, or just like early on too, it was when The Artist's Way came out. I don't know if anybody remembers that book, but one of the things they suggested was get a group together, and actually that was so beneficial. Like there were 5 of us that were still in town after graduating from CCAD, and that actually eventually evolved into what is CAW now, I think. but it kind of got carried on by other people. But
And I think, I mean, you continue to do that. I mean, that's sort of how I got to know you so well, because, I mean, you had this, I think, brilliant idea during the start of the pandemic, when everyone was moving out of New York City, and a now mutual friend, but I didn't know Kurt, had another artist who's originally from Troy, Kurt Leitner. He had an open studio in a space that he rented. So Laura was like, what if we get a group of people together mostly from Ohio, and share this space in New York City? And I was like, that sounds like an amazing plan. So that is still going strong. And
it's a lot of
we
fun.
have 10 or 12 or so members now of our little collective.
Yeah, and I have to give Kurt credit too.
Yes.
He had been bringing it up to me over the years, and I would ask people like, "Hey, let's do this," and I just kept getting like no response. But then I mean, it's crazy. I didn't think over the pandemic that it would fly, but I met you, and I had, and Contemporary Art Matters had just opened too, and so I had connection to artists who were just more serious, I think, and interested in something like that. So, like you.
And it's been fun to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share before we take questions? I feel like we were pretty broad, but I feel like with this exhibition, which is a mid-career survey, it was good to be more broad rather than super specific. So with that being said, does anyone have any questions for Laura? Yes.
I can't really see you. Do you work in layers? Do you build layers up, or do you just like dig in?
Not too much. I paint pretty directly. I just do the one color wash, kind of a thin color wash, and let that dry, and then I work very direct after that.
Yes.
Since you feel so strongly about the environment and other few issues, do you work by commission? And since they seem so large, how do you support yourself?
I do commissions, so that helps support me. And I have a wonderful gallery that sells my work, so that's basically.
And you've been a full-time artist for many years.
Pretty much. I mean, in the beginning, it was more economical for me to stay home because, I mean, I was doing my catering. I mean, I've had lots of odd jobs. I haven't, but then when I had my daughter, it was, I wasn't really making very much money with those odd jobs, and I'm married, so luckily my husband has a job. So I would stay home, and that was, paid more really than
paying somebody to take care. Yeah. Yes.
I'm amazed by just the movement you're able to achieve when you look at the pictures, especially the water. The movement is so detailed and realistic. All of the points of light, everything kind of feeds in. Where do you start when you're building it? I mean, just to achieve that level of movement that you have.
It might be that I'm working wet and wet, I'm keeping the paint very fluid. And since it is pretty gestural when I'm working on it, I mean, if I don't like the way something turned out, I can just wipe it off and just keep going. So maybe that lends itself to that.
Certainly beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just have a quick question about, since you're such a direct painter, I was just wondering if you pre-mix or anything, your palette colors, or?
I do more than I used to. And also I found out the trick that you can, which I didn't know until a couple years ago, that you can just put your palette in the freezer. I was late to learning that, so that was kind that's helpful.
So by putting that was something that I didn't know, so you are not as late as I am. But so you put your whole palette with the
I just kind of scrape the globs into a container, and then you can just stick it in the freezer. And oil paint has a lower freezing point than water, so it will just not dry up.
Keep
and
it
then,
fresh.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it comes to room temperature like really quick. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about your influences? You mentioned Manet earlier, and I just wondered, how you got into art, and did you have any major influences?
yeah. Well, when I was in college, there weren't very many figurative painters. It wasn't very cool to be a figurative painter. And but the ones I loved Lucian Freud. There's a nice little painting of his in Cleveland that I remember seeing early on. And yeah, I would say he was who I really looked at when I first started painting, just because I wanted that thickness and loved that. And Wayne Thiebaud.
It's another one who I'd like to touch those someday, right? It's that frosting, that cake frosting.
Yeah, he takes it much further than I do, and I still try to channel some. But yeah, and then of course Eric Fischl was working at that time, and Philip Perlstein, who I was always but he has very thin, it's very opposite of what I was going for, but then the dynamic strokes of Eric Fischl.
I would have guessed Lucian Freud, the surface texture on the flesh. But I would also think of Chuck Close, particularly late Chuck Close.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely was aware of his work and saw it, and I love how he pixelated them, later too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
When you put your images on the canvas, do you project them from the photograph?
Sometimes I do, yeah. I mean, I used to grid them out, and then, I think I mentioned I'm such a slow painter, so I just get an outline and then work from the outline, yeah.
I think a lot of oil painters do that. A lot of figurative oil painters do that because you want to get to the fun part. You want to get to the
Well, I've already done the composition,
Right.
and I pretty much like to keep it to what I have. So, yeah, I mean, I came from a very traditional school where we drew everything from life, and that's great if you are able to, if you don't want to paint water or someone swimming or something like that. So, yeah.
I was just wondering, it seems kind of like you're exploring this, distancing between the realism and not just, abstraction, but also distortion. And, I was looking at this one here, and it's the very realistic face looking towards, the raw, exposed canvas. And so there's, this juxtaposition. And then, in this one, the face that's laying in the water is looking up at, the almost silhouetted, nature, and it just seems like you have this contrast between the two, and I was wondering if that's intentional or...
Between sort of a more realism and a more abstract kind of... Yeah, I do have to play with, sometimes to get sort of what I have imagined is not something you can actually do in real life, set up. You have to kind of distort things and move them around to get them in the picture plane the way I want them. So that one definitely, I remember working on Photoshop for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I do love that interplay, I guess I need to answer your question. Between realism and, I feel like I first experienced that in a painting when I saw Van Gogh for the first time, because there's this strange realness about his work, but yet it's so thick and abstracted in ways, and that is something I would love to be, put in my paintings.
Yeah.
Do you see your work being any different if you had had a boy instead of a girl?
Interesting question. Yeah. I know. I wonder. I have like done a couple paintings of my nephew, and there's a couple with. I think. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it would have. But I just had little girls around me all the time, and then I think. It definitely having a teenage daughter kind of makes you relive like experiences that you had and project fears onto them, and it may be it had turned out so fresh.
Yeah.
Have there been any moments throughout your career where you met a work whose style was sort of antithetical to your own, but in being exposed to it, you took away a principle or a technique into your own practice?
Oh yeah, I feel like I do that all the time. Like, just the more art I feel, the more art I see, I guess I feel it too, it impacts. It always impacts. I think good when you look at great art, it actually has the effect of making you think about your own work too, in comparison to it. So definitely,
Yeah.
So it's fun to be in here with a room of friends, the paintings I know so well. But in looking at your earlier works and the Girls in the Water, that nature is that force of nature where there may be a danger like the tide or other forces. But in the woods, it almost feels like the nature is the retreat from the dangerous man, or it's not really animals or that, but the danger in the...
No, it's more the fear I am a person who likes to go for walks by myself, and go out into nature, and I like to be by myself. I always did that as a kid, and then it wasn't until later when you start feeling threatened, and it's both. It's like a retreat away from that, but it's also the fears that I guess that's going to encroach upon that. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Any other questions? I have one more question. Oh, yeah.
I just have one more.
Yes.
Do you have anything on your list that you, as a topic that you want to paint in the future?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have ideas definitely that are brewing.
That sort of leads into my last question. What is next? What is next for you?
Maybe some more water paintings. I have an idea about that. I kind of went back to that a little bit in my last show at Contemporary Art Matters. I had one piece that was, we have like reservoirs around our house that I will take models to. I also have all these plastic little shells and I was thinking of doing like a little ocean plastic series.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to that. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Laura, for spending the evening with us and for sharing your beautiful work and telling us a little bit about them. We all really appreciate it.
And thank you to everyone who helped out and contributed to the show. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.